Welcome to the Looby Construction Corporate Safety Video.
Welcome to the Looby Construction Corporate Safety Video 2026.
Since 1904, Looby Construction has been a strong and reliable provider of heavy civil bridge construction. Today, our team is leading the market with quality work, technical expertise, and safe practices, carrying on our proud history and tradition of providing superior construction projects. When it comes to on-time and on-budget work, Looby Construction is the first choice of clients. From project conception to completion, every member of Looby's construction team is committed to providing services that meet and surpass client expectations safely. Every year, Looby Vice President, Operations Manager, Safety Manager are required to document and present their commitment to safety within the following categories: personal safety beliefs, personal safety goals, how to execute those beliefs goals, current culture, how to affect future culture. Looby Construction has many company policies to help keep our workers and projects safe. A few are listed below. Health and Safety Policy. Looby Construction is committed to the health and safety of its workers. Protecting workers from injury and/or disease is the main objective. Everyone has the responsibility of identifying, assessing, and reducing workplace hazards, incidents, and injuries. Respect in the Workplace Policy. While we continue to work at creating an inclusive environment that is free from harassment and discrimination, it's important that we establish a clear set of expectations on how we treat each other. Looby Construction is committed to creating a safe and respectful environment for all workers. Report any contravention of the Respect in the Workplace Policy to your site management, Looby Safety Department, or Looby Senior Management. Environmental Policy. Looby is committed to protecting the environment and conducting operations in an environmentally responsible manner. Looby will meet or exceed all applicable environmental regulatory requirements. We recognize environmental performance is important to the people and the communities in which we work. The Looby EMS is applicable to all Looby/Elliston operations. Fit for Duty Policy. Employees are expected to be fit for duty when reporting to work and must remain fit for the duration of the workday. This means that employees must not be impaired by alcohol, legal or illegal drugs. Fit for duty. In the event that an employee is taking prescription drugs prescribed by their doctor, the drugs must not inhibit their ability to perform their job functions. If an employee has a dependency to alcohol, legal or illegal drugs, the employee must disclose their dependency to Looby Construction as soon as possible. Looby Elliston Assistance Plan. CLAC Employee Assistance Plan. Workplace Definitions. Duties. Ontario Occupational Health Safety Act, Internal Responsibility System. One of the primary purposes of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, OHSA, is to facilitate a strong internal responsibility system, IRS, in the workplace. To this end, the OHSA lays out the duties of employers, supervisors, workers, constructors, and workplace owners. Workplace Definitions. Duties. Ontario Occupational Health Safety Act. Simply put, the IRS means that everyone in the workplace has a role to play in keeping workplaces safe and healthy. Workers in the workplace who see a health and safety problem such as a hazard or contravention of the OHSA in the workplace have a statutory duty to report the situation to the employer or a supervisor. Workplace Definitions. Duties. Ontario Occupational Health Safety Act. Workplace Parties: owner, constructor, employer, supervisor, worker. Owner includes a trustee, receiver, mortgagee in possession, tenant, lessee, or occupier of any lands or premises used or to be used as a workplace, and a person who acts for or on behalf of an owner as an agent or delegate. Duty of project owners: A. Not begin any construction, development, reconstruction, alteration, addition or installation to or in a workplace until the drawings, layout and specifications thereof and any alterations thereto have been filed with the Ministry for review by a professional engineer of the Ministry for compliance with this Act and the regulations. And constructor means a person who undertakes a project for an owner and includes an owner who undertakes all or part of a project by himself or by more than one employer. Duties of constructor. 23.1. A constructor shall ensure, on a project undertaken by the constructor that, A. the measures and procedures prescribed by this Act and the regulations are carried out on the project. B. Every employer and every worker performing work on the project complies with this Act and the regulations, and c. The health and safety of workers on the project is protected. Duties of employers, Section 25, 1. An employer shall ensure that a. The equipment, materials and protective devices as prescribed are provided, b. The equipment, materials and protective devices provided by the employer are maintained in good condition, b.1. Any personal protective clothing and equipment that is provided, worn or used is a proper fit and is appropriate in the circumstances, having regard to all relevant factors, including such factors as may be prescribed. H. Take every precaution reasonable in the circumstances for the protection of a worker. Duties of supervisor, Section 27, 1. A supervisor shall ensure that a worker, a. works in the manner and with the protective devices, measures and procedures required by this Act and the regulations, and b. uses or wears the equipment, protective devices or clothing that the worker's employer requires to be used or worn. Additional duties of supervisor, 2. Without limiting the duty imposed by subsection 1, a supervisor shall a. advise a worker of the existence of any potential or actual danger to the health or safety of the worker of which the supervisor is aware, b. where so prescribed, provide a worker with written instructions as to the measures and procedures to be taken for protection of the worker, and c. take every precaution reasonable in the circumstances for the protection of a worker. RSO 1990, C. 0.1, S. 27. Worker means any of the following, but does not include an inmate of a correctional institution or like institution or facility who participates inside the institution or facility in a work project or rehabilitation program. 1. A person who performs work or supplies services for monetary compensation. 2. A secondary school student who performs work or supplies services for no monetary compensation under a work experience program authorized by the school board that operates the school in which the student is enrolled. 3. A person who performs work or supplies services for no monetary compensation under a program approved by a college of applied arts and technology, university, career college or other post-secondary institution. 4. Repealed, 2017, C. 22, Sched. 1, S. 71, 2.5. Such other persons as may be prescribed who perform work or supply services to an employer for no monetary compensation. Travailer. Duties of workers, Section 28, 1. A worker shall work in compliance with the provisions of this Act and the regulations, b. use or wear the equipment, protective devices or clothing that the worker's employer requires to be used or worn, c. report to his or her employer or supervisor the absence of or defect in any equipment or protective device of which the worker is aware and which may endanger himself, herself or another worker, and d. report to his or her employer or supervisor any. 2. No worker shall, a. remove or make ineffective any protective device required by the regulations or by his or her employer, without providing an adequate temporary protective device, and when the need for removing or making ineffective the protective device has ceased, the protective device shall be replaced immediately. b. Use or operate any equipment, machine, device or thing or work in a manner that may endanger himself, herself or any other worker, or c. engage in any prank, contest, feat of strength, unnecessary running or rough and boisterous conduct. Safety thoughts: who is most likely to get hurt on a job site? Young workers or workers during the first couple of weeks on a job site. New workers are 4 times higher at risk in the first month. Be aware of hazards on the job as you may not always feel sick immediately, i.e. asbestos, noisy environment. Every job has hazards, no matter how safe it looks. Everyone in the workplace, from the employer to the newest worker, has different but important duties to keep the workplace safe. Worker rights: 1. Right to participate, workplace inspections, health safety representative, joint health safety committee. 2. Right to know, workplace hazards identified in writing. 3. Right to refuse, you have the right to refuse unsafe work if you have reason to believe it puts you or a fellow worker in danger. 4. Right to work in an environment free from violence and harassment. Safety is our number one core value period. Work safe and no exceptions. We never compromise the safety of our employees or our customers. We believe that a safe workplace is the first step to a successful project. We lead by example so that safety is a priority to everyone. Speak up if you see something that you consider to be unsafe. Hazard recognition is a vital skill required for nearly every safety activity. For example, it is required to successfully complete pre-job safety assessments, safety observations, and even prevention through design reviews. Although the profession has made tremendous progress in safety management over the past 50 years, most safety practices are built on the implicit assumption that workers can see hazards that are present and anticipate those that may emerge. However, recent research suggests that hazard recognition skills may not be as strong as originally assumed. Albert, Hollowell, Skaggs et al., 2017, that the energy wheel is a technique that allows us to see more hazards more easily. Hazard recognition is the process to find and record possible hazards that may be present in the workplace. Risk perception is the ability to identify and evaluate risk associated with hazardous events. Risk tolerance is working with known unsafe behaviors, or how much risk will a person take before an injury or incident is certain. The end results, behavior performance, all start with hazard recognition. Employee code of excellence, respect management directives that are safe, reasonable and legitimate, respect the customer's rights and property, respect the rights of fellow coworkers, respect tools and equipment, work smart, perform personal business, including mobile device use, during authorized break periods only, never participate in job slowdowns, disruptions or activities designed to extend the job or to create overtime, use the right tool for the job. Notification, notify supervisor of status of expired certificates prior to using equipment or performing work task. Goals/objectives, Looby's key goals are to drive towards zero injuries, develop a strong safety culture, and have every employee and subcontractor working for Looby go home safe each night to their families. We will do this by meeting or exceeding all regulatory requirements, following our policies and procedures, properly training our employees, setting clear expectations, and following our key values: trust, respect, understanding, communication, knowledge. Safety thoughts: all managers, employees, supervisors, are to comply with legislative requirements, health safety program requirements, safe work procedures and practices, and ensure that safe and healthy work conditions are maintained on project site and within their assigned work areas at all times. Every employee is required to report all unsafe and unhealthy conditions. No job is considered to be so urgent that safety can be jeopardized. It is in the best interest of all workplace parties to consider health and safety in every activity. Commitment to health and safety must form an integral part of every project. New working at heights rule, on all Elliston/Looby sites, IS now 6 feet.
Our hard hat policy has been changed to include all of our subs, protection reinvented. Type 2 hard hat with integrated chin strap.
Hazard/risk definitions. What is a hazard? A hazard is any source of potential damage, harm or adverse health effects on someone or something. What is risk? The probability or likelihood that a person will be harmed, or equipment will be damaged if exposed to a hazard. Hazard is a yes or no question. Risk is a high or low question. Does every workplace have hazards? Hazard awareness, RACE, method of hazard awareness: recognize, assess, control, evaluate. Mobile device hazard: there are many hazards associated with using mobile devices on a worksite. They can distract users from the hazards associated with their use. These restrictions apply to all employees and visitors entering the worksite. Mobile device hazard continued: mobile devices include, but are not limited to, cell phones, tablets, and iPods. Music devices of any type are not permitted in the work zone. Looby Project Management has the authority to prohibit other mobile device use on site. The use of mobile devices is not permitted while operating any mobile equipment, material handling equipment, while working on any aerial work platform, not permitted during safety meetings, if urgent family matter requires an employee to use their mobile device. The employee must coordinate with the supervisor and make the call from a safe area. Mobile devices should be kept off when working. can be distracting to other workers. Spotting the hazard is only the first step. Correct the hazard or report it when you see it. Every worker in the province has a duty to report dangerous conditions in the workplace. Safety opportunity. Safety opportunity is another name for near Mississippi. If one thing goes wrong, a near miss becomes an incident. Near misses are opportunities to identify, investigate and correct hazardous situations before they cause injury, illness or equipment damage. Stop, report, correct. Daily questions. Who is my supervisor? What do I do in an emergency? Have I signed and reviewed the PSA today? Who do I report unsafe equipment to? Do I have valid training for task I am working on? Where is my muster point? Where do I get first aid? Where are the fire extinguishers? Accessibility standards. Accessibility standards. Our PSAs identify a list of potential hazards and barriers to be aware of when setting up a work site, including hazards and barriers for visitors to the job site who may require accommodation. We can share our PSA with visitors/persons requiring accommodation upon request to ensure that it meets their needs and to ask for feedback. Visitor orientation. All visitors to site must go through a safety orientation to inform them of the hazards present on site, vehicle equipment traffic, reversing, falls, chemical, first aid location, fire EXT location, muster points. Visitor orientation must be completed via the electronic version in the drive or on paper. Visitor orientation pass must be signed by anyone visiting the site. Progressive discipline. Progressive discipline will be enforced when a. Absenteeism without reasonable cause, b. Health and safety violations, c. Poor or unacceptable conduct, d. Carelessness, e. Willful damage to company property, tools, equipment and/or machinery, f. Drugs and/or alcohol consumption, or working while under the influence of, g. Failure to report unsafe acts/conditions, h. Noncompliance to health and safety policy, I. Acts of harassment, racism, intimidation, assault, or breach of civil or criminal laws, j. Other violations not noted above. Actions that will be taken. Verbal warning must be signed by both parties. Written warning must be signed by both parties. Time off/termination. The company has the right to issue time off/termination immediately based on the severity of the incident. Safe work practices. Safe work practices are generally written methods outlining how to perform a task with minimum risk to people, equipment, materials, environment and processes. Examples of safe work practices would include housekeeping, guidelines on power hand tools, ladder use. Practices are found in the HS manual. Safe work procedures. Safe work procedures are a series of specific steps that guide a worker through a task from start to finish in a chronological order. Safe work procedures are designed to reduce the risk by minimizing potential exposure. Additional training is generally required. Examples of safe work procedures would include traffic control, work in and around water, working close to power lines. Safe work procedures. Safe work procedures are a series of specific steps that guide a worker through a task from start to finish in a chronological order. Safe work procedures are designed to reduce the risk by minimizing potential exposure. Additional training is generally required. Examples of safe work procedures would include traffic control, work in and around water, working close to power lines. Personal protection equipment, PPE, ANSI-approved climbing hat, CSA-approved safety glasses, Class 2 orange or yellow background high-vis vest, appropriate gloves for task at hand, CSA-approved work boots 6, green patch, face shield and safety glasses when grinding, long pants and shirts with minimum 4 sleeves, no tank tops or sleeveless shirts, hearing protection if over 85 dB, mandatory at all times on sites. Not allowed on site, no slip-on boots, no cotton gloves, no prescription glass must be safety prescription. Housekeeping. Slips and trips are one of the top causes of injuries in the workplace and 60% of accidents are at least contributed to by poor housekeeping. Clean debris, excess material, waste, etc. as necessary to maintain a high degree of cleanliness in your work area. Ensure all designated walkways, parking areas, etc. are maintained clear of material/debris at all times. Excavations, valid locates are required before disturbing soil, slope in accordance with soil type or provide engineered trench boxes/shoring systems, keep free of water. Excavations, valid locates are required before disturbing soil, slope in accordance with soil type or provide engineered trench boxes/shoring systems, keep free of water. Heavy equipment/cranes, only qualified operators permitted, operators must inspect daily and record, be mindful of overhead power lines, do not use phone while operating, know your blind spots and use signalers, be aware of equipment around you and paths of travel, do not cross path of travel or enter swing radius unless you obtain permission from operator. Heavy equipment/cranes, only qualified operators permitted, operators must inspect daily and record, be mindful of overhead power lines, do not use phone while operating, know your blind spots and use signalers, be aware of equipment around you and paths of travel, do not cross path of travel or enter swing radius unless you obtain permission from operator. Material handling, strains and sprains or soft tissue injuries from overexertion are a common and preventable injury, use proper lifting techniques, keep your back straight and bend your knees, keep the load close to your body whenever lifting objects, whenever possible use mechanical aids such as material carts, hoists, forklifts etc. to move material, when an object is too heavy or awkward, seek assistance. It doesn't hurt to ask, it only hurts to overlift, store material in an orderly fashion, ensuring material is not stacked too high or in a manner that will cause it to become unstable, ensure all loads are secured against movement during transport. Material handling, strains and sprains or soft tissue injuries from overexertion are a common and preventable injury, use proper lifting techniques, keep your back straight and bend your knees, keep the load close to your body whenever lifting objects, whenever possible use mechanical aids such as material carts, hoists, forklifts etc. to move material, when an object is too heavy or awkward, seek assistance. It doesn't hurt to ask, it only hurts to overlift, store material in an orderly fashion, ensuring material is not stacked too high or in a manner that will cause it to become unstable, ensure all loads are secured against movement during transport. Health and Safety Representative. Health and Safety Representative's responsibilities. A health and safety representative is required when there are between 6 and 19 workers regularly employed in the workplace. Duties include: inspect the work areas weekly to identify hazards, 2. Report hazards and make written recommendations to supervisor or superintendent, 3. Attend and participate in health and safety meetings on site, 4. Assist in the review of the health and safety program for the project, 5. Help to implement the Health and Safety Program. Duties continued. 6. Assist in incident investigation. 7. Perform and document weekly site inspections as directed by your supervisor. 8. Participate or perform and record weekly safety talks. 9. Liaison with Ministry of Labor site inspectors. 10. Complete health and safety representative training as required. 11. Participate in site incident investigations. All reps will be trained under EHS rep requirements by CLAC. See the Safety Board for name of your HS representative. Accident/incident reporting. Accident/incident reporting. What type of accidents/incidents are to be reported? All accidents/incidents must be reported to your supervisor, who will complete documentation required. What is considered an accident/incident? Personal injury, first aids, medical aids, spills, leaks, property damage, vehicle/equipment damage. If an accident/incident occurs, employee must report it to their supervisor immediately. Followed by, get first aid/medical treatment immediately. If treatment is required through a medical facility, ask your supervisor/foreman for the medical memo, ED 156, worker's level of fitness, participate in modified work program, stay in contact with office/supervisor, supervisors must notify management within 2 hours. All documentation related to the accident/incident must be submitted to Safety Department ASAP. Modified work. Looby has a comprehensive return TO work program which includes medical memo, ED 156, form, offer of modified work form, modified duties assignment form. Stand-downs are intended to bring frontline workers and supervision together and to provide a mechanism for immediate incident review, before the incident investigation report is completed. The expectation is that stand-downs occur ASAP, immediately following the incident. Stand-down outcomes allows application of immediate actions, provides an opportunity to review competencies, work procedures, reassess hazards and controls, etc., forum for workers to participate in the initial investigation process, and provides information to support the investigation process. Critical injury, an injury of a serious nature that places life in jeopardy, produces unconsciousness, results in substantial loss of blood, involves the fracture of a leg or arm, but not a finger or a toe, involves the amputation of a leg or arm, hand or foot but not a finger or a toe, consists of burns to a major portion of the body, causes the loss of sight in an eye, electrical shock. If you receive electrical shock, you must seek medical attention and Ministry of Labor. Must be notified. Fire extinguisher, first aid, muster point locations. Fire extinguisher are located in site trailers, lunch trailers, Looby trucks, safety stations. Annual and monthly inspection must be performed and documented. First aid kits are located in site trailers, lunch trailers, Looby trucks, safety stations. Monthly inspection must be performed on all first aid kits and documented. Daily, PSA, equipment inspection. Weekly, site inspection, truck inspection, subcontractor monitoring forms, weekly safety talk, environmental inspection, as necessary, crane inspection, ladder, harness. Certificates. Please present your certificates from recognized training providers. Keep track of your training. Weekly safety talk, to be done on all sites, Mondays. If joining a site on another day, ask your supervisor for a sign-off sheet or create a new one. Peri-job safety assessment, PSA. PSAs are one type of field-level hazard assessment that is an essential tool in the hazard recognition and control process. The most important step in the process is the communication of hazards and control measures to the workers performing the work. This is best accomplished at the field level on at least a daily basis or when the scope of work changes significantly and new hazards are presented. It is essential that workers and site management complete this process together and put genuine effort into the completion of the PSA. If a crew does the same task repeatedly, complacency, or changing weather are examples of new hazards that need to be identified and controlled. Key items to remember: 1. PSA is required for all work. 2. PSA must be completed before starting work. 3. PSA must be reviewed with all workers involved in the task. 4. PSA must be accurate and relevant to the site conditions. 5. PSA must be initialed at the start and finish. 6. PSA must be reviewed in the field by the supervisor. Peri-job safety assessment, PSA. Daily inspections. Inspections need to be completed before operating any piece of equipment. Some examples are cranes, elevated work platform / scissor lift, forklift / all-terrain, any equipment over 10 horsepower, ladders, harnesses, vehicles. Weekly. Hazardous material spill awareness. A spill is a discharge of a contaminated or hazardous material into the natural environment, from or out of a structure, vehicle or other containers which is abnormal in quality or quantity in light of the circumstances of the discharge, where we are involved in the supply and or handling of fuel, oils, chemicals or other hazardous materials. The workplace / project shall ensure that an emergency cleanup program is in place in the event of a spill. Spill types. Spills are defined under the Provincial and Federal Environment Acts as follows, but are not limited to: spills from containers including drums and tanks, spills from motor vehicle accidents, spills resulting from breaks in hydraulic hoses or piping. In order to comply with these acts, it is our responsibility to prevent spills, and if a spill does occur, it is our responsibility to have the spill cleaned up and restore the environment to its original state where possible. Spill contingency. Establishment of a spill reporting process. A. Ensure immediate safety of all persons in case of flammable or toxic spills. B. Advise immediate supervisor of incident who will in turn advise the senior / project manager. C. The senior / project manager will notify the project owner. D. Management will notify the appropriate regulatory authority if required, i.e., MOE, MOL, etc. E. Identify areas with high potential for spill, i.e., fuel depots, oil storage. Initial response: if the spilled product is in a quantity that cannot be pumped, loose absorbent material or absorbent pads should be placed on the product. Apply absorbent material from the downhill portion of the spill and work up to the source. Loose absorbent material should be mixed into the spill with shovels. Replace the absorbent as it is spent, usually indicated by a color change in the absorbent. Spent absorbent should be placed in 205-liter, 45-gallon, drums with removable lids, and with clamps until arrangements can be made for disposal. Note: storage tanks and drums shall be stored on site in a secure or restricted area until arrangements can be made for the disposal of the contents. There are a variety of spill kits available. Spill: secure site, secure the site, stop construction activity in the area, prevent access by unauthorized persons, remove or disable potential sources of ignition for fuel/oil spills, protect adjacent sensitive areas such as storm drains before an incident and after. Spill: on land, excavate a trench or construct a berm downhill of the spill. The trench or berm should be lined with plastic if available. Alternatively, absorbent booms can be placed downhill of the spill. However, the booms will need to be monitored closely for seepage. Once the spill is contained, the spilled product, if quantities permit, can be pumped to drums or to a tank. Spill: water, into water, an absorbent boom shall be placed downstream of the entry point of the spill. Once the boom contains the spill, it can be pumped into 205-liter, 45-gallon, drums or to a storage tank. In still or slow-moving water, it may be possible to deploy absorbent pads to remove the spilled material as described in the on-land section. Spill: in snow, excavate the contaminated snow and place the snow in salvage drums. If the snow melts, apply absorbent material or pads to collect the spilled product. The remaining water will require testing prior to disposal. Spill: in on ice-covered water, if a spill to ice-covered water does occur, attempt to cut slots, angled to the shore, downstream of the spill as required to collect the spilled product. Apply a booms or absorbent pads as on land section. If it is not safe to cut ice, break up and remove the ice downstream of the spill and apply a booms or absorbent pads as described in on land section. Spill: waste disposal, in accordance with applicable legislation, take samples for analysis, arrange disposal through a licensed disposal/haulage agent, ensure chain of custody and manifest documentation generated and retained. Vehicle policy: no riding in the back of a moving vehicle. You must always wear a seatbelt while in a moving vehicle. It is also mandatory that no use of electronic devices while operating a motor vehicle. You must have a valid driver's license to operate any vehicle. Only workers who have been approved by the company are permitted to drive company vehicles. You must sign the Looby vehicle policy before operating a Looby company vehicle. General site rules: minimize cell phone use on site. Wait until breaks to make calls and return texts. Spotters are required whenever vehicles are required to reverse. Work areas are to be inspected at the end of shift to ensure the work area is left in a safe condition. General site rules: before starting a job, check tools for defects, don't take shortcuts. Use stairs, use handrail, ladders or ramps provided. Ensure these are in safe condition for use. Maintain an orderly work area with good housekeeping practices. Running, shoving, fighting, playing practical jokes or other horseplay is prohibited while on a job site. Firearms or dangerous weapons are not permitted on the job site. Additional resources: Ministry of Labour, Health and Safety Ontario IHSA, Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, Workers' Health and Safety Centre, Occupational Health and Safety Clinics for Ontario workers. The end. Congratulations. Please make sure you have filled out the orientation paperwork completely and hand to the site supervisor.